Andy Ngo, thank you so much for your time. Can you start off by telling us who is running the place? Who is providing any form of security, authority, governance? Who's doing that?
Well, the problem is there really is no official leadership. What you have are thousands of left-wing people coming together, and they span Antifa, there's Black Lives Matter, there's social justice warriors, and there are just hippies all coming together during the day, having a good time, vandalizing the place, spraying graffiti everywhere, claiming ownership of a property that's not theirs. And then at night, you see what happens in a place that is truly full of anarchy, which is that fights break out, fires get started, and people there are left on their own to maintain some semblance of peace and order. If you happen to live in that area, if you happen to run a business in that area, you now cannot depend on the state to protect your basic needs, right? Like access to your property, or knowing that if you call the authorities, they'll actually come. They won't. So it's an occupation, and I would call it potentially even an enemy insurgency, in that they made it very clear that they are a separate political entity from the United States.
Well, I've seen a number of news outlets, particularly CNN and others, claim that it's safe, even while their own journalists seem under threat from people carrying side weapons, even in this zone. Also saw someone from the John Brown Gun Club, which is a heavily armed far-left kind of militia outfit, being active in that area. When journalists are calling it safe, would you, in fact, for example, be safe there?
You're safe there if you have the same views as those in the camp. If you are perceived to be somebody who's an outsider, they will physically move you out to prevent your entry. So, for example, yesterday there was a black man and a white woman who came in carrying American flags. They wanted to, in their words, take a stand and make a declaration that we are still in the United States of America. And they were actually robbed, assaulted, and chased out, literally chased out. And then in the car that they left in, one of the masked individuals followed them and took down the car details and passed it on to somebody else. The woman alleged on social media today that her car had been vandalized overnight at her home. So yes, the media has been focusing on the nice, pleasant parts, like the barbecues, the music, the dancing, the singing. But when you enter these spaces and you go through the checkpoints, there are people guarding it, manning it, and many of them are openly carrying weapons. You mentioned the John Brown Gun Club, which, as you said, is a sort of Antifa militia, as I would call them. I mean, one of their members carried out an armed attack on a government facility last year and got killed in the process. So this is a group linked to extremist violence, and they're the ones providing security for the space.
Well, this is quite extraordinary. So how's this all going to get resolved? The police chief is not happy. The mayor doesn't seem to be doing anything. Donald Trump tells her she better or else. What's going to happen?
Unfortunately, the mayor has expressed support for this occupation, and the governor has downplayed it as well, both of them describing the spaces as peaceful. I don't know what can happen. I feel like the police are in an impossible situation because you have literally thousands of people now in this really large area in the middle of the city. If they go in and they don't have the tools to actually disperse a violent mob, they're going to have to resort to other forceful responses that will lead to injuries. And that's going to lead to a whole other round of demonization of police and politicians then passing other emergency injunctions to try to take away tools of law enforcement. So this is a problem that the mayor has allowed to take root from the first day and is continued now for almost a week. And it's amazing seeing how just within a period of less than 7 days, how a nice neighborhood in Seattle is turning it basically into a slum now.